curious from a tactics standpoint, and understanding, like this was basically the first legit engagement with Somali fighters, so it's impossible to compare it to, say, Iraq or Afghanistan, where it's sustained and they learn and adapt. And because the tactics used in both of those places, there were certain entities or pockets of fighters that were incredibly tactically advanced and competent. But it sounds like the Somali fighters is almost like zombie tactics.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Which is no less difficult to deal with. Right. In some ways it's harder because there's no regard for their own safety or life or whatever. Did you ever have any encounters where almost like that video game of just like...
Yeah, in fact, a couple of the Somalis were hard to kill, meaning they would take 3 or 4 rounds without any body armor.
Yeah.
And it didn't dawn on us right away, like, what's going on? So the Somali warlords, they controlled the local population by fear and guns, but they also recruited fighters with a drug. It was an African plant. The root of the plant acted very much like cocaine, and the drug is called Khat, spelled with a K, K-H-A-T. They would chew the root of the plant, and you could tell that they were chewing Khat because it was like chewing tobacco, but it would leave their teeth green.
Green?
And, the root itself was green. So when they were chewing Khat, they would kind of have this super strength, no moral restraint whatsoever, and the drug gave them, raw energy for 45 minutes or so, kind of like an amphetamine or something else out there. So we would hit a guy not once, not twice, but 5 times before he would actually go down. And it was because Khat was keeping him up on his feet, and he would keep on advancing even though he had been shot. And it really did feel like this is the Walking Dead right now, man. This is crazy.
Yeah. You guys are using green tip too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the problem also, but because we ran into that in Iraq. I mean, there was a guy that I remember we shot just south of Tikrit. We had this ambush happen the night before we went and assaulted the palace and the whole city of Tikrit. Yeah. But I mean, once we recovered him, I want to say it was like 17, 18 rounds in his torso, and he fucking ran for almost 100 yards.
Crazy, right?
We shot the gun out of his hands. Yeah. It was crazy. There was a bullet hole in each of his hands and in the pistol grip and in the stock of the gun with blood on it. Shot the got out of his hands, hit his torso over a dozen times, and he ran for almost 100 yards before he went down. It's nuts, and that's all with green tip,
right.
But I remember hearing about the Khat stuff, and that element from a mentality standpoint. I don't know if you're aware or not, but I know from a pain threshold and a brazenness standpoint, it amplifies everything. Yeah. Does it make them from a mentality standpoint like they're high as fuck? Where they're not
that's what it is.
So
it's not that they're super aggressive. It's just that they've pretty much lost their mind temporarily and got all of this energy that they can't control. So
it's like PCP.
Yeah, man. It's basically like for 45 minutes, I can do whatever I want to do, and nobody on the planet can stop me.
Be testing for that in the UFC fight too.
I was going to say, you have to do a lot of killing. You have to shoot a number of times just to get the guy to hit the ground.
Wow. You said there were 2 instances. The one was the Wizard of Oz ammo covered streets. What was the second one?
Yeah, and the second one is that building that we were getting hammered, and we didn't have enough attack aircraft to go target it. So they called in this Apache, from a conventional unit, and he got up in the air real quick and engaged the target next to me. We had to kind of pass the messages through our command net, but that dude took the target out, took out the threat. No problem, but never even worked with those dudes before.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. Obviously, the movie is great. The book's been out. The story's been told
countless times. Yeah.
Is there anything that the movie got wrong, and or was something left out that you wish had been put in?
Yeah. So the movie really downplayed the violence. Understandably so, because I don't think any audience could stomach the kind of killing that we did. It really downplayed the size of the crowds. At one point, I had to fight my way through a crowd of not a few thousand, but 50,000 people in the streets because it's the food distribution site and it's time for them all to go get a bag of beans and a bag of rice. So they all descended to the food distribution site while I'm fighting my way through them. And I had to part the crowd by putting 50 cal rounds over their head. And even then, they couldn't get out of the road fast enough. But the movie also significantly downplayed the women and children aspect of it. And man, true story, when I got back from Somalia, I got asked by the brand new mayor of New York City if a handful of us combat vets from Somalia would come to New York City and walk in the Veterans Day Parade and carry the American flag, the New York City flag, our unit colors. What a great honor. By the way, that mayor's name was Rudy Giuliani. And when we were in uniform and going through the subways, getting ready to assemble at the start point of the Veterans Day Parade, we got accosted in uniform, man, by dudes in the subway that were spitting on us, no kidding, and calling us baby killers because of what the news had reported. And the movie deliberately downplayed that because just the moral implications of that, I think, was more than they wanted the audience to have to sit through or have to wrestle with. So because of a few things like that, people say, hey, Jeff, was it accurate? Well, man, it's a movie. It's not a documentary. But even if it was a documentary, there's just some things that there's no way an audience is going to be able to stomach. I'm really proud of the way that Black Hawk Down turned out. But it's not, just so that your listeners or viewers know, it's not close to the real thing in terms of violence and killing and some of those moral complexities that we had to go through.
Were there any components of the movie that, like, any big ticket things that were left out that you're like, why the fuck is that not in there? Like, if
yeah, I mean,
other than what you said.
Yeah, so my role was very different, being the guy on the ground the whole time. The dudes that went in by helicopter, they had a very different perspective. And the movie focused a lot on the force that went in by helicopter and much less on the Humvees. And I think rightly so. That's where the majority of the force went in, by helicopter. The Humvees were kind of an afterthought. And there's some things in those Humvees that really should have made the movies. Not me, but the guys around me that really should have made the movie. But they didn't really, they never made it to the book. They never made it to the overall story. So it would have never made it out there.
Could you share?
Yeah, I mean, some of the courage that I saw on those city streets, I've never experienced anything like it before or since. Everyone, the kind of courage that I saw was just unprecedented. One of the guys that really should have been, and I'll mention him by name because he's given me the permission to do this. A guy that really should have been mentioned is John Mesahunis, who leaves my Humvees at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night and moves on foot to the Durant crash site, he and one other guy. And he arrives at the Durant crash site after it's already been overrun, after the bodies are being dragged through the streets and desecrated. John Mesahunis doesn't get the credit that he deserved. That dude went on foot through crowds of thousands of armed bad guys.
With him and one
just
other guy.
him and one other dude to make his way to the crash site just to see, is anybody still alive here? And Mesahunis' story doesn't get told. It should, but it doesn't get told. But there's a dozen other examples of that don't get told too.
Yeah. What from your service record, I guess, the Silver Star, is that from?
That's from Somalia. Yeah, just got upgraded. Hey, I really want to say this. The movie, I think, wrongly downplayed those 4 SEALs roles in Somalia. They kind of showed them as being stuck out in the city streets and not really having much of a role to play. Man, the SEALs that were right next to me on those Humvees were absolutely awesome, and they don't get the airtime. There were some Air Force CCT guys and PJs around me that don't get the airtime, and the movie should have depicted them, and it didn't. And I'm bummed that those guys didn't get the credit that they deserve.
Yeah. I can only imagine. I mean, no different. Something as simple as conducting this interview. Like, there's just not enough time to cover everything, and so there's always going to be shit that gets.
But it
left
almost
out.
makes it look like what they did is unimportant.
Yeah.
And all of us that were there would say, man, those dudes were amazing.
Yeah. In speaking to the underplaying of the amount of violence and killing, specifically as it relates to the civilian body count, or I guess just in general, is there a way to quantify or put a number on, even if it's ballparking, a range for that matter, of about how many KIA on the other side. There was
International Red Cross rolled in and kind of put some estimates out. So just to give your viewers kind of a perspective, we put about 200 guys in the city, 200 shooters in the city streets that day. The next morning, 18 dead, 73 wounded, roughly half the force shot or killed or wounded. But the International Red Cross says we killed at least 300, wounded somewhere between 8 and 1,100 more. That's their best guess. But no one, the international community, even our intelligence assets, couldn't give us accurate numbers. I think most of us who went in on the target that day thought there'll be a couple of hundred bad guys, 200 of us against 300, 500, maybe 1,000. When we came out, I think most of us would say, I think we were talking more in the range of 10 to 20,000, not 100 to 200, more like 10 to 20,000. So you know the deal, man. When you do that kind of math, you're going to get doesn't matter what your tactics and your equipment is, you're going to get the same results with that kind of math every time.
Yeah. I mean, is it safe to say from your perspective of being on the ground, one of the only guys that was on the ground the whole time, that there's probably thousands of KIAs?
Yeah, the amount of killing that we did compared to the damage that they did, let's be honest, man, they did real damage to us, and we're really, really well trained. But the amount of damage that we did to them far exceeds it. And most of the most significant killing was done from the air by the little birds. Yeah. And those dudes, all night long, their guns were just red hot all night long, keeping the rest of the city at bay while we were in there trying to fight our way to those 2 crash sites.
Yeah. Wow, man, what a story. I mean, it's been told. I've seen the movie, I've read the book, but getting the in-person account from you is special, man. I appreciate it.
I can't say enough about those pilots too, man. Some of those dudes flew for 18 hours nonstop, putting rounds on the enemy, just trying to keep them at bay.
Yeah. An incredible story. Man, I can't thank you enough for sharing it. It's awesome.
Yeah, brother.
All right, so when you, I'm curious, I mean, does the movie do a good job at the after of what it was like that next morning, like once it's all over and you're legitimately done, like the adrenaline dump, the emotions, walk us through that.
There's a couple of things that I don't think I was, and I've already been to combat twice before Somalia, but the next day we're all at the Pakistani stadium. There's a soccer stadium that's controlled by the Pakistanis. That's the closest UN place to us from where the fight went down. And we all descend on the Pakistani stadium, and now the field of the Pakistani stadium is just nothing but bodies. And I mean legit bodies everywhere. There are stretchers over here with dudes that are just hanging on to life. There's stretchers over here of dudes that have an arm or a leg, but we know they're going to make it. The body bags are lined up over here. And then we're all trying to figure out, wait a second, what about X? What about Y? What about Z? Where's Shugart? Where's Gordon? Where's Ray Frank? Where's Mike Durant? Like, we got some people missing. That part spread like wildfire through the Pakistani stadium. And that was my first chance to ever, that's when the adrenaline stopped flowing. That's when I was finally able to say, okay, maybe I'm going to walk out of this city streets alive today. And I became numb. And I mean like totally numb. I'm looking at the body bags that are stacked up over here. I'm looking at the dudes that are bleeding out on the stretcher right here. And I got nothing. No emotion whatsoever. And I think I was just so exhausted, both physically exhausted and emotionally exhausted, that I didn't have anything left in the tank until a couple of hours later, when I was able to get just an hour or two of rack where I could start to process what I just went through.
Yeah.
It kind of surprised me because I'm sitting on the hood of my Humvee with run flat in the tires, and 3 of the 4 tires are shot flat. Like, wow, man, those things are not supposed to go flat. That's a lot of bullets.
Yeah.
But I had trouble kind of attaching the emotion to the event until a couple of hours later.
Yeah. I have a dumb question.
I don't think there is such a thing. Go for it, man.
Maybe that sounds like a challenge. Throughout the entire 18 hours, you drank water.
Yeah.
Did you eat anything?
No. Copenhagen.
Did you go to the bathroom at all?
I did. I'd run out of the Humvee, go run to the vehicle or to the side of the building next to me. The gunfire picks up, and I was like, "They're trying to kill me while I'm going to the bathroom out here, man. These guys are insane."
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's a long gunfight.
It is,
I mean, nothing I went through was ever anywhere near that long.
I always thought, well, the sheer adrenaline will keep you awake. At 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm droning while bullets are still flying and landing next to me because I'm so exhausted.
Yeah. That was one of the things, about being in Iraq that I think, like, from an adrenal fatigue standpoint is so tough is that, like, you can only do that for so long.
And your body can't live on that.
Especially when it's week after week after week. It's just like, you get to where it's like you crawl under a fucking Humvee while shit's going on. Right. It's like, whatever. It's weird. Man, it's such a crazy story. How long did you guys stay there after it was done before you came home?
So the hardest day of my life, militarily speaking, is about a week later. We've negotiated, there's been an intermediary there. It's went through the International Red Cross, negotiated to get the bodies back that were being drugged through the streets. We've got Mike Durant back, who was held prisoner of war for 11 days, and we're ready to roll back out in the city streets and continue the mission, right? Like, you sent us over here to find some bad guys. We're here to kill or to capture them. Okay, well, let's go. And the President of the United States makes the call, stop all combat operations, period. Put the task force back on aircraft and send them back to the United States. And by the way, we're reversing course in Somalia, changing the policy and pulling everybody out by March of the next year. And immediately I thought, what was all that blood for? Like, if we're here to do a mission, I will fight to the last man. I will gladly give my life if this mission is that important. You're the president. You decide if it's that important. But if you're going to reverse course just because we lost a whole bunch of dudes last night, you just dishonored all of the dudes who just gave their life last night. And for me, the ultimate slap in the face is when the president said, pack your stuff and get out of here. It really wasn't that big of a deal in the first place.
Man. I can only assume.
And I'll carry that bitterness. Like, people got angry about way things went down in Afghanistan. I'm like, you don't even know, man. That bitterness, I don't want to say bitterness, that bitter pill, I'm going to carry with me for a long, long time.
Yeah. I can only assume that everybody shared that same sentiment. Yeah.
But all of us also said, hey, look, boss, you're the president. If it's that important, we will go to our death for this mission if that's what you want us to do. But don't you dare pull us out early, man.
Yeah, man.
And I got to give credit to all of those presidents that hung in there in Afghanistan and Iraq when the rest of the nation was saying, look, let's just get out of here. It's not that big of a deal. No, man, if it's worth fighting for, it's worth winning.
Yeah. To me, I think that underscores that principle needs to be at the forefront prior to involvement.
Yeah. That needs to be at the forefront of U.S. foreign policy. Like, if we're about to do this, we're going to stick with it until we win.
But on the other side of that token, don't do it unless it's worth dedicating
That's right.
Man. So how long were you there? Like, once the combat subsided, a week?
We were maybe a week and a half before we were pulled out of there and sent back to the States.
Wow. So you come home, then what?
I stuck around the Ranger Regiment. Most 95% of the dudes that survived, they punched out of the Army. Few of them went on to bigger and better things. I stuck around the Ranger Regiment, stayed there for several more years. But I had this moment where I had this overwhelming sense that God wanted me to be in the ministry. That's what led me to become an Army chaplain.
Before you did that, when you first got back to the Ranger Regiment, what was that like as far as, like, all the other dudes that see you guys coming home? Was it like now you're Ozzy Osbourne on tour? Like,
it was the exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah. The news portrayed Black Hawk Down as an absolute military disaster, and all they showed was bodies dragged through the streets and a lot of blood. And so even the guys from my unit that didn't deploy, the other companies, they were like, yeah, well, if it was us over there, it would have been different, right?
Oh, shit.
And they were basically saying, like, how did you guys screw up so bad that many people got killed? And what most of us, this is what happened to me. Most of us developed this bunker mentality. Like, I can't talk about this with anybody. I can't tell my family. I can't tell my friends. I can't even tell other Rangers about it because they're all thinking, if it was me, it would have went down differently.
Dude, that's messed up.
It wasn't until Mark Bowden wrote the book Black Hawk Down that the opinion of the battle changed, and that took 5 years.
Wow.
The whole world changed their opinion about this. But for 5 years, nobody talked about it. Nobody wanted to talk about it.
That's got to be hard to even put into words, the amount of frustration that you had to have felt.
You know this. As a warrior, I don't need awards. I don't need decorations. All I need is for America to say, we're proud of you. Yeah. That's all I need. Yeah. And what I heard was, we're not proud of you. You embarrassed us. You let us down for 5 years. And then it was almost, I wanted to laugh at how fickle the public is, because when Black Hawk Down comes out, everybody's like, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. No, I'm actually not the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it wasn't that much of a disaster. It was what it was. And until Black Hawk Down came out, the opinion didn't change. Yeah. So I just didn't talk about it to anybody.
Man, that's
only to my buddies that were there, because they're the only ones that would get it.
Yeah. Wow.